Okay, so I'm back working on the 2013 RZR 900 XP. As you can see, I got the engine all tore apart, and what I'm trying to solve is a oil burning problem. So this video is actually going to show you whether or not it's possible to put rings in a 900 motor without tearing the whole bottom end apart. So this engine again was burning, a pint to a half quart of oil every 50-60 miles. And to be honest with you, that just got annoying. I was spending more time thinking about the engine oil than I was enjoying the riding. All right, so what I want to talk about is what we can do here to replace these rings. So first of all, if you have an 800 motor, this is actually a simple procedure, and there's a lot of videos on it. That engine, both pistons come up at the same time. Because of that, you can reach in there and get the circlips and the wrist pins popped out, take the pistons out with the cylinder, replace what you want, reverse procedure. Problem with the 900 motor is it's a 180 motor. One piston up, one piston down. So the question is, can you do that same technique that the 800 guys are using? Well, take a look at this. With both pistons at the same height, unfortunately the wrist pins are below the deck, so you can't get to them. So what do? Well, your first attempt is going to be, well, I'll just raise one piston. I'll put my cylinder on, put my rings in there, and I can get to my wrist pin no problem. And you're right, you can. But then you have to rotate this engine to do on the next one. Your problem that you're going to have is that as you rotate to get this wrist pin high enough to be able to put it in there, you end up dropping the oil control ring below this skirt, and you're done. You can't do it. There's just not enough room. So you've got to come up with a different solution. And that's what I'm going to be showing here. So what you want to do is you want to start off with either piston up, it doesn't matter at this point, but you want to get your rings on the piston the way they need to go, okay? And if you don't know that, look in your manual. It's going to show you where your ring gaps need to go. Top ring, second ring, oil control rings, and expander ring. Make sure you get them the way they need to be. Next, pay attention to this mark on your piston. This little triangle or pyramid here needs to point to the exhaust side of your engine, right? And that's going to be where the dipstick tube is. And then finally, make sure you put the right piston back in the right hole. So I marked mine for the mag side and PTO side. All right. At this point, you've got your pistons all set up. You've put them in, wrist pins in, circlips on. They're both sitting in the hole. This is something you do not want to forget. This gasket is probably sitting over here on the workbench, and you decide you're going to start putting the cylinder on. Well, if you do that, you're going to have the fun of doing this whole job a second time because you can't get this gasket on, unless you do it at this point. So please don't forget this gasket. That's why I'm emphasizing this. Very important. Okay, put your gasket on. Polaris is going to tell you this gasket needs to stay extremely clean, oil-free, etc., etc. Don't worry about it at this time. You're going to get fingerprints on it. You're going to get oil on it, right? It's okay. We'll have enough room to clean it before we put the cylinder completely on. At this point, what you want to do is you want to get some oil on your hand, okay? And you want to go around and you want to oil up the inside of your cylinders, and you want to oil up these rings and double check the gaps. Make sure they're in the right place. One final check. Compress your rings with your fingers. If you can't compress them all the way in, you got a problem, and you need to fix that before you start to put the cylinder on. I had an expander ring that was stuck, and if I tried to put it on, I would have either broke the ring or scored the cylinder. So make sure you can squeeze that in. All right, now here comes the fun part. Bring your mag cylinder all the way as high as you can get it, right? Top dead center, okay? This is easier with two people. All right, so once you get this thing as high as it can go, what you're gonna do is you're gonna need a partner, and they're gonna be sitting on this side of the engine, and their job is to manage this cylinder right here. You're gonna guide this over the chain, you're gonna make sure that's in there, and you're gonna lower this down until you get to the piston, okay? And then you're gonna work from these little gaps next to the skirts. What you're going to do is you're going to reach your hand in here and you're going to squeeze this top ring together, and you're going to slide the cylinder over that, and then you're going to do the next ring, and then finally the third ring. So you'll have this entire piston inside that cylinder. That was the easy part. Now comes the hard part. How do you do the second one? Well, you're gonna have to rotate this engine, but you do not want to go 180 degrees. That'll be too much, and this ring will pop out of the lower part of that skirt. So what you're gonna do is you're going to rotate this engine until these pistons are just about level with each other, okay? The whole time, your partner is managing that this piston stays inside of the cylinder. So he's gonna have to come down with you as this cylinder comes down. That's his job. Your job is to turn the crank and to watch and make sure that you never let that oil control ring go below this gray line right here. Not the bottom, but this gray line. That will give you enough safety margin, and that's really as far as you need to come down. All right, once you get down far enough, get this gasket back up here, it's out of our way. You are going to put the cylinder, going to be down here like basically like this, right? Except for this piston's going to be up in there. At this point, if you try to do that second piston with this cylinder straight up and down, you're probably never going to get it done. You actually got to tilt this cylinder back, okay? You're going to tilt it back because that's going to give you enough room to get your fingers in here with it tilted back to work that first ring on there and probably the second ring. And as you do that, you can start to bring the cylinder forward, okay? Because it's much easier to get the oil rings in there. But you're going to have to, again, have this kind of, you can see, kind of tilted back. The piston is going to match that. So I know this piston is going to be rotated where it's matching that as you squeeze and put those down and work them down. Now, there's no way you're going to drop this whole cylinder into there at an angle, but it's what you have to do to get it started. And then once you get them up in there, then they'll be able to pivot up and you'll be able to drop that whole cylinder straight down and you'll be good. Now, at the point you get both of them in the cylinder, what you want to do is you want to come back here and you want to just level out your pistons in the cylinder. That's going to give you a gap about this much, right, between this deck and this deck. All right, that's enough room for you to get your finger in here with a towel and clean off all the oil off the bottom side and the top side of this gasket, because this gasket needs to be as clean as possible. All right, so don't forget to clean that really well. Once you've done that, you can just slide that cylinder straight down and you're done. You've got it solved. So again, the trick is work on one cylinder, bring it down, tilt this back, put the rings in and slide it on. Once we figure that technique out, it's about a 15-minute job to make it happen. So just pay attention, work slow, double check those rings, no pressure on the cylinder. It should go real easy into there. Make sure you oil it. Anyway, good to go. So hopefully that walkthrough will give you an idea and tell you it is possible. Again, if I can get a video while we're doing it for real on the final rings, I'll try to do that. But if you get any questions about this, let me know. Again, I'm still in the middle of this build, so hopefully we'll get it back together and get it running again. So until then, I will see you on the next.